That wasn't very nice.
No, it wasn't.
Well, she's been ragging on me this whole time.
Welcome to the Grappling With Podcast. Dr. Chris Hardy and William Walker will take a deep dive into topics covering wellness and prevention, performance, recovery, and injury management. Our mission is to provide the latest science-based information to help you get the most out of your
sure they know I'm a doctor.
both on and off the mats, and help you overcome any challenges you may be grappling with. Dr. Hardy is a licensed physician and BJJ practitioner, but the contents of the podcast are meant for educational purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice.
On the Bristol stool chart, where are you?
Prior to implementing any medical treatment
Little
or
confetti.
intervention.
Bill
Like
is
a
a licensed buffoon.
6 or 7.
He says things that are a little squirrely. Do not hold these things against his gym mates, his family, Chris Hardy, Harry Hardy, or anybody at his gym.
Screw it. Just do it.
Just hold it against you.
At this point,
Yeah, just let it fly, dude.
let her rip.
So, speaking of which, I got a rant first off.
Okay.
Feeling a little spicy.
Yeah. You look spicy.
Oh, God, dude.
It's like you've been doing push-ups.
I'm looking rough, dude.
Got a set of shotguns.
No,
on.
I watched myself on the video I just shot on doing a workout thing for this podcast.
Yeah.
Eek. It's not good. I was like, man, I got to touch something up or something.
Gotta go see the skin doctor.
I don't know. It looked rough. Looked like a raisin doing push-ups or
Yeah. You need some adrenochrome immediately.
something. So let me rant first. Then I got some other stuff to talk about.
Okay.
So you guys know defense wipes, right? We like defense soap, all that stuff to, for ringworm, for MRSA, all that preventive stuff,
Got
right?
a package in the trunk right
Yeah. So if you were to try to order a package of the wipes now, right now, you could not get it delivered in Washington State.
What?
Nope. Nor can you any other wipe that has tea tree oil or anything is considered an antifungal, because the wonderful nanny state of Washington has made a law that says all those packages have to have "do not flush" conspicuously written on the package.
So like dude wipes or
Anything that has like any antifungal or anything like that,
Yeah.
if it doesn't have something very large letters that say "do not flush," you cannot get them in Washington State anymore. So when I went to put it in my Amazon cart, it said red, said nope. Then I tried another one. Then I had to look it up. I'm like, what the F is going on? So it was passed this year. First state, the only state in the country.
So it specifically has to do with those
Antifungals.
Antifungal what that
chemicals. Is that what?
yeah, that and we don't flush them anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's another one of those things like duh.
Yeah.
But you apparently have to have it written on the package. So defense, if you guys are listening, I know you don't want to interrupt your manufacturing process. For Washington State, can you do something? Put a sticker, put something on it, because now I can't get the wipes.
Because those are really good for daytime trainers.
They're amazing.
Or whatever. Or even people that have a long drive home.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I got 45
we use them all the
minutes.
time, and we have used them up. Now we wanted to replenish our stock, and
I got some used ones you could probably.
I was thinking about going on the black market for them.
That's what I'm talking about. I know a guy.
We need to go to Oregon and see if we can get them shipped across state.
Forget Oregon. I know a guy.
Oh, they'll probably follow Washington in this
I know
thing.
a guy in White Center.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Okay. Tacoma. Real good areas.
Can make it happen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They got
Pull up in a parking lot, open the trunk, and like, what you got? You got the defense wipes, man?
Yeah. You got some of that tea tree?
The tea tree? And eucalyptus?
Exactly. Shit.
So anyway, I was pissed about that.
I could see it.
Yeah.
I mean, one, you look like a very sun-dried raisin.
It's all the working on the deck.
Right. Or just mold. Two,
Yeah, it's not doing
you can't get your dude wipes. Or
Actually, Carrie's the one
Defense
that
wipes.
wanted me to order. She goes, hey, we're out.
yeah.
And I went to order her. I'm like, what is this red freaking paragraph?
Yeah. Then you had to get your glasses out.
I did actually. I had actually freaking read it. You think you're lying? I actually
Put
did.
my email in?
What? This is what kind of black magic is this?
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, another thing to be pissed about this week. So
It's pretty.
You know what? We're going to Arizona
yeah,
in October. Maybe
smuggle
we'll
some in.
have some shipped to my parents and bring them back.
that'd be yeah. Can you get me some underground freaking defense wipes, please? So ridiculous.
You just said that something funny about black magic. And I was golfing with a good friend of mine named Kevin Williams. He is what someone call a black man. And it was a celebrity. It was the Lenny Wilkens celebrity golf tournament over at Newcastle. And we were partnered with Eldridge, Rick Hasner, and I can't remember who else, another former NBA player. Mm-hmm. And they all know each other. Kevin works in radio and like behind the scenes. He's not like a on-air voice. And he invited me out there to also play. So I was in his group with a couple ex-Seattle Sonics.
Okay.
Pretty cool. Now I got a little bit of a sense of humor. But so does Eldridge. Eldridge is known. He's on the radio as being like a guy that jokes around a lot. First time I met these guys, right? And I'm thrown out there. There's some like fun, for the people that golf out there. There's some like kind of stereotypical things like activate the glutes, right? Because, anyways, if you're a golfer, you probably have heard that you got to activate the glutes when you swing. Okay, so I start talking about activating my glutes, right? They just start cracking up. I'm already breaking the ice. I'm on set basically. I'm doing a set right now, a comedy set. Well, until they flipped it. And when I'm in the sand trap, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to just whip out some of this black magic right here and just knock that bitch in. And then all of them at the same time goes, what'd you say? And I was like, you get a little bit of that black magic. What's black magic? What are you talking about? I was like, immediately, I turned pale, and I was like, what is black magic? In my mind, I'm thinking like voodoo. But that's, I don't want to say that. I want to be like, hey, like voodoo, like what black people practice. I didn't want to say something like that.
That's not what it is at all.
I know. But your mind starts, me, I'm diarrhea mouth.
Yeah.
So I start rolling. I don't even know where the sentence is going.
You're Michael Scott.
I'm Michael Scott.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just let it finish itself. And I start stumbling and fumbling. And
I bet they loved it.
They all just started laughing and like just walked away.
They just had you.
Oh, they got me.
Yeah.
I didn't leave the sand pit for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
I hit my ball out and I just stood there raking for 10 minutes.
As you should have.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. So
that was pretty funny.
That was a good time.
All right. Well, that's a nice little segue into the story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got there, though.
You said black magic.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Now, speaking of apparent magic, so
you're from Louisiana.
I am actually, but you were injured this weekend.
Yes, please.
I got wrist locks.
That's not what happened because I was there. And I was actually very concerned about you because one of the person you're rolling with, who's a very, very mild-mannered guy, raised his voice.
Yeah.
Which he should have.
He called you. I think it was because he called you, twice. And
I couldn't
I think
hear.
you were talking or rolling or something.
Yeah.
And then he was...
yelling?
Then he yelled your name.
What was funny is he apologized for that. I'm like, there's nothing to apologize for, dude.
Yeah.
So anyway, you're over there, unable to move your arm.
Yeah, it was locked up.
And you were getting swept and you posted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, technically he pulled guard, almost like a Tomonage. So like
but right into it.
Yeah, if you pull guard, but you go into like an overhead sweep.
Totally.
And I posted my arm out.
Yes.
To brace. And it was funny because it was kind of...
Which we've talked about posting, haven't we?
Yes, but it wasn't a very ballistic movement. It was kind of slow. Like as in, I had good weight on his legs, so he wasn't really able to like shoot me over. So it was oddly like slow, but he got my feet in the air. So then I put my hand down and I was floating there for... Call it 2 seconds, which you're thinking 1,000, 2 1,000. Like it's kind of a long time to be just standing on your post, right? Yeah, and then he starts taking me over. Now in this moment, I externally rotated a bit my shoulder, because I'm thinking I'm going to go over my left shoulder because it's my right arm that's down.
Sure.
And I'm thinking I'm going to externally rotate and then I'm going to dive.
Sure.
It didn't happen.
But your wrist got kind of caught backwards too.
It locked out too.
Yeah, and your fingers were splayed on the mat.
Yeah, my fingers were out and splayed, and then I was also already twisted.
Yep.
So then what happened is with my right arm, I started how I was being taken over wasn't how I thought, and I'm actually going now almost over my thumb.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, where my elbow, the locked part, I'm going through that, and all my body weight slowly.
Yeah, you're hyperextending.
Yeah, and the sound, I think he even heard it.
Yeah,
and it sounded like a bag of potato chips just starting to, like slowly get crushed.
Well, you were over there on the mat, not able to move your arm, so I was really
it was locked.
So I know it was.
My fingers were,
and that's why I was concerned. It was splinting. The nervous system goes
splinting.
Something really got
spiraling.
No,
splinting.
Something really got messed up there. I thought, right? So it would work. But let me digress from that story, and we're going to return to it.
Okay.
Ironically, later that night at the UFC, strawweight women.
This animal that I had this injury sent this video to me, and I said too soon.
Yeah, no, exactly what happened. She dislocated her elbow that exact same way, posting from a takedown. This the Russian lady went for a that diving ankle pick takedown,
like a super low single kind of
super
thing.
Low,
okay,
right? And the Brazilian fighter, she posted back, and it dislocated the same way that yours could have. Oof. It was almost the exact
mine
same
was
mechanism.
doing it. It's just now. This is why I was lucky. I was with a black belt, because as I started, I didn't even have the ability to verbally tap. I just started like doing that sort of thing. He had the mindset to actually you can't take me back,
right?
But he had the knowledge to, with his legs, give me a pop.
Yep.
That got my pressure off my hand.
Yep.
And then fall over.
That's right. He's one of the safest guys to roll with, I think. I mean, he's
a little big.
Yeah, but he's always safe, dude. He's a big guy.
Was a shot at him.
He's a big guy.
That was a shot at him.
He's a large man.
Yeah.
He's definitely bigger than us. But anyway, so that was ironic. That exact same thing happened later that night at the UFC.
Right.
But I get a photo today showing you rolling, and so I came to probably the most likely conclusion is you were faking the injury because you didn't want to get submitted again by Josh. That was what I'm gathering from this.
I agree.
He did darce me within the first 30 seconds.
Right.
And then that happened probably 30 seconds later.
Right.
I could tell it was a bad round.
So I'm thinking that's all I thought is maybe you're just faking an injury. And, you had me concerned. So,
Exhibit A is pretty strong.
It is pretty strong.
I would say that photo might have just been me drilling.
No. Who are you trying to talk to, dude? That wasn't a drilling shot. I saw you playing a guard that you like, and I don't think that was drilling.
I will say that.
Plus, your wife dimed you out.
That's true.
Yeah.
So when I got that little boo-boo, that, what was it called? Splinting?
Yeah.
That was scary.
Yeah.
Because the crunching sound.
I thought you did something bad because of the way your nervous system was reacting.
Which is like an emergency response?
Yeah, because when a joint has been damaged or is in danger, the muscles around it will kind of contract to try to protect that joint.
Okay. Because, my hand was, for audio listeners, it
looked like a claw.
Like a tiger claw. Like when my fingers were stuck in that position.
And your arm wouldn't straighten.
Yeah.
I mean, bend.
Yeah, my arm was kind of straightened out as I was sitting there or laying there.
After about 10 minutes when I saw you start moving, and I felt a little better, but still. But then, obviously it wasn't all a fake because you were rolling again. So,
obviously you got me on you and Carrie put me on this kind of recovery protocol.
Yeah.
And it's been great, but now where I have all the soreness is in my wrist on the outside, and then kind of where our wrist bump is there.
Yep. It's called the ulnar styloid.
The ulnar styloid.
Yeah.
And it's still, I guess, a little swollen, but it feels extremely sore within that. And I assume that's the tendons.
Likely the tendon because of the symptoms you're having.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Very little on the elbow, actually.
Right.
just a little bit on this top piece here, which it almost feels like a connector.
Yep.
I don't know. So I have like much more limited range of motion. So like that's where it hurts on my right side.
What Bill is showing, so those of you not watching, is he's trying to extend his wrist like you're holding a tray, like a waiter holding a tray, and he's unable to do as much with his right wrist.
And then internal or external is like way less. I can only.
That's called supination.
Supination.
Yeah.
Soup it.
Yeah.
And then what's this one?
Pronation.
So pronation is like it can go all the way, and then this one it starts hurting.
Yeah, right exactly. So that would make sense to me.
Yeah, I wasn't
Bill
gonna roll.
He's made a miraculous recovery.
I feel like Wolverine.
I don't think that at all. I think he was completely faking, like I said, to avoid getting submitted again.
I did get a lot of concerned texts, and it did make me feel pretty special.
I was one of them.
It's
but
true.
then I get the next day, I just feel like, I was played. So
Well, I had a Purple Belt visitor that is a podcast
how many
listener.
people did you roll with today, Bill?
Doesn't matter.
Yes, it does. How many?
I had a podcast. He's a
3?
podcast listener.
yeah,
3?
No, I only
4?
did 2.
You said you went with Drew,
Yeah. And then the visitor.
not Sam.
No. Nope.
Okay.
we're gonna pull up the video at the Academy, Olivia.
So I had to roll the visitor,
I understand.
but I needed to test it to see if So I rolled with Drew first.
Yeah.
He's a small man.
Had to roll.
I would have died if I didn't.
I understand.
I know.
I understand.
So
No, I'm glad you're doing better.
yeah, it's shocking how much better it feels than I thought it would after how bad it felt in the moment.
No kidding. And but just with yours and then the subsequent one later that night at the UFC,
Oh yeah.
really got to be careful with posting. I know
Yeah.
it's a natural, it's a natural thing. You don't want to get swept, and sometimes it's legit and it's not high impact, but you can just get it turned wrong and it's disaster.
Yeah, and this was 2 black belts with my injury. So
That's
it's
what I
like,
mean. It could have been a lot worse.
It just happens, and I think it would have been a lot worse if one of us was maybe even less skilled.
Yeah.
There's that potential.
Yeah,
but
Josh probably saved you from worse
you
injury.
dimed him out.
No, he doesn't care. I'm giving him props, man. Since you faked your injury to not get submitted by him again.
I also have some news that I just remembered.
Oh,
So most people know when they listen to this podcast, I don't self-censor a whole lot my speech. I do some.
you don't say.
I do some, but I don't hold back a lot of vernacular.
I hear a butt coming.
No.
Okay.
You'll
Don't
enjoy
use
this.
the actual word.
I won't.
Okay.
Jeez. So I found out that the R word,
The one my mom does not like.
yes. What does it rhyme with?
I mean,
What
gosh,
does it rhyme with?
do we need to rhyme it? I mean, we know what you're talking about because you've said it before. And
Well, I'm saying new listeners might not. Anyways, the R word,
yeah,
some people say mentally disabled,
right,
but it's the medical term.
correct.
For that.
It's not really.
Really?
No, it describes someone. It's an
Like you.
no. It is used inappropriately that way.
In medical?
So, no, we don't say that in medical.
Did they used to?
They may have. No, we actually use conditions that would cause,
like
trisomy
mentally-
21 or something like that.
Okay. So I found out that actually the algorithm doesn't like that word. Kind of like the
YouTube doesn't like it either.
That's probably what we got. That's probably what we got nailed.
pandemic word.
Of the Voldemort.
The disease word.
Yeah, I understand that one too.
The 19. It doesn't like that one. It also doesn't like the R word.
Interesting.
So I'm going to put that one in the old back pocket. I've had a couple of people actually tell me that they kind of think it's funny or appreciate that I just say stuff. But I'm going to have to put that one away just to see if the algorithm doesn't hate on us.
The algorithm, I tell you.
Yeah.
It's a piece.
Unfortunately. I am starting to post stuff on Rumble. So if you guys
You can just do an OnlyFans, dude.
I mean, who says I don't got one?
I'm sure you do.
How dare you?
So
that's that.
I like it.
Putting the R word in the pocket for a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm putting you in my pocket a little bit.
You can try. You can try.
With that being said, you have a topic that you have.
I do have a topic. So it's another, we've done previous podcasts on strength training, right? And we did some on mobility. Those kind of intertwined a little bit because kind of the system that I really like for mobility is really a end-range strength type of thing, right? Well, I've been playing, and I'm not saying I came up with this or I invented it before
You're
everyone
just the first person to talk about it.
No, I'm not. But in what I was thinking, what I've been doing that I thought I'd share that with our listeners that I think I've gotten a lot of benefit from is the way I'm strength training now with kind of like pushing and pulling and those type of things. Instead of, like for a pushing exercise, instead of bench press, if you think about a bench press, what are we doing? Let's say we have 200 pounds on a bench press, okay? And our back is flat on the bench and we're pushing against it.
When was the last time you maxed out bench?
Oh my gosh. When I was in the Navy.
Like 40 years ago.
No, it was the last time I maxed bench was on deployment in 2004.
You look like you could bench a little bit.
I don't want to mess my shoulders up.
But it looks like you could.
I chased the 300-pound bench for my size was pretty good. But
you benched 300?
305, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, but it's not because it's, my shoulders really started bothering me.
Is it because the position of benching and the mechanism of it isn't great?
Yeah, well, if you're a power lifter, that's your sport. So absolutely.
Yeah.
What I'm going to argue for grappling, and please test it out, tell me what you think, is that if I'm pushing 200 pounds on a bench press and I have the bench itself stabilizing me, so all I have to do is push. So kind of going back to physics, I don't know if you remember like Newton's third law.
Sure.
Right.
I got that memorized.
So every force that you generate against something, you have an equal but opposite force being pushed back on you.
Okay.
It's like if you have like a small gun, not much recoil. That's what recoil is basically. The larger the gun, more you lean into it. You know what I mean? So that's an example of the Newton's third law.
Okay.
So in grappling, I mean, can you stand up? So if I was having you stand up without any support, do you think you could push 200 pounds of force? And by the way, for those of you, I have to say this because I know there's a lot of different people out there. I'm using the English units of force, which pounds are both a mass and a force. The metric system does it much better. So I'm using those interchangeably for those of you that are physics people.
Until you start talking about stone.
Stone it. You see, there you go. You did it again.
Can you mark that? Sorry.
So, but stone is actually not stone is a weight. It's not a mass. So I'll digress a little bit.
Okay.
So let's use kilograms. Kilogram is a mass. It doesn't matter. You could have a kilogram in space. It's still a kilogram. The unit of force is when the kilogram is acted upon by gravity.
Okay.
And that becomes a Newton.
Oh.
Okay. So a Newton is a direction of force. In the English system, pound is basically both the unit of mass and they call it force. So when I'm digressing. So when we talk about generating 200 pounds of force, I'm just trying to be correct.
Okay.
So imagine pushing a 200-pound bench press, the amount of effort that you put into it. Imagine trying to do that standing without any kind of support.
Yeah, it's not happening.
Why?
Because, you got nothing to brace yourself on.
But because that weight is pushing 200 pounds back at you, and you have to be able to stabilize that.
Yeah. So then you have to have like 200 pounds of like abdominal strength.
Or whatever, rooting you into the ground, right? Yeah. Which is, so in grappling, oftentimes we're in positions where we are generating pushing and pulling, not always, but often, especially in the stand up, or if we're, passing guard from our knees or something like that, we're pushing and pulling, having to generate internal stabilization with our body. Okay. So my thought was, why don't I start training that and be the limiting factor of how much I can push instead of getting on a bench? Is the limiting factor will be how much I can stabilize.
I see.
Okay. So a video that I just shot that I was just alluding to earlier that I'm looking at.
So that's kind of like how people can, when you feel a good pressure passer, it can feel ungodly. Like it just can, when a good pressure passer can sag into you and like put a level of pressure that, even if they're not a huge person, can seem just unusual.
Well, it's the isometric strength that they're stabilizing that with, right? A better example is also, you say someone has a good base. What does that mean? If you're standing up with someone, you're like, dang, this person's hard to move
around. Yeah.
Okay. You may be able to bench press more than them. But if they've come up grappling since childhood, they have a level of isometric stabilization of their body to use that as a platform to generate force from.
Grip up with like an experienced judoka.
Not just the technique, but also
because their body's been throwing humans around.
That's right.
For so long,
they really know how to stabilize that just intuitively. So I started doing this, and I'm using a set of specific resistance bands, not just your average resistance bands. I'm getting them from Anchor Point Training. I want to give them a shout out.
Nice name.
Because I think they're the best on the market. You can get them in different lengths and different strengths, but
these things look like they're almost half Kevlar, half.
They're what you'll see in the video if you kind of give
the heavy duty ones upstairs, right?
Yeah. Okay. And I have them, so I can actually, what you'll see in the video is I'll walk them. So if I'm going to do a pushing thing, I'll have my back to the anchor and I'll walk those things out with handles forward away from the anchor until I'm feeling like I'm going to get pulled backwards, because they can generate a ton of force. Matter of fact, I can walk them out so I can't even push them anymore. Once I get to that point, I'll determine what kind of position I want to stabilize from. It could be combat base. It could be some kind of staggered stance from standing. It could be tall kneeling position. It could be a horse stance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever you want to work on. And then what I'll do is I'll push. I'll get so I can barely lock out a rep. But the whole time I'm pushing, doing like a bench press motion, I'm actually having to stabilize isometrically my entire body.
This is kind of like landscapers are notoriously like guys that either they're in, that's what they do every day.
Yep.
They're notoriously like strong.
Look at my wife. My wife grew up on a farm.
Yeah. Or like farm
She's
strength.
Stupid strong for her size.
And when you feel those, whatever belt level they are, they always feel different.
You get a hold of a wrestler that doesn't look like maybe they're that big and muscular, but they're so damn strong on the mats. And I think a lot of it has to do with this. So not only and I'm working the same thing with pulling too. You can imagine just turning around facing the anchor, and you'll see examples of both. And I'm also working on using what's called anti-rotation, where I'll attach an end of one of these bands to a long pole, and I'll walk out with it. So that end of the pole is a lever trying to turn me in, trying to rotate me. And I'm trying to resist that rotation as I press that end of that pole out. And we'll as the weeks go by, I think what I'm going to do is start putting out an example of a different exercise all the time, like a little 2-minute little video.
Yeah, and we'll put on our YouTube.
Yeah, so people can kind of check it out.
Which the videos that he's referencing now, we'll have those on our
But
YouTube
let me tell
page.
you, man, I went through, Carrie and I did 2 supersets. In other words, we did, from tall kneeling, we did a set of push and a set of pull. And what we did is we did 5 reps of double arm push. We did then 5 singles on each side. And when you do the single, now you don't have force is pushing you from equal on both sides. So it's trying to rotate you as well as you push one out in front of you. So you're having to even alter the stabilization even more. And so we did that with a push and a pull. And let me tell you, man, I'm nervous system wise, that is a huge hit to the system, much more so than I would feel from any bench press or row.
Is it similar to like if you did a really difficult hypertrophy workout?
It's a little different because I feel like the thing that failed was not my arms. The thing that failed was my ability to isometrically stabilize.
Your core.
And so think about why don't you shoot a cannon from a canoe? The recoil of the cannon, right? So the force it takes to project that projectile, you have an equal and opposite force
Right.
backwards into the canoe, into its base of support, so to speak. You can imagine, this sounds preposterous, but
Like
you can
cartoon, yeah.
It's like a cartoon. What I'm trying to do is build my canoe into a ship. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think by doing that, I think it's going to have much more carryover to my grappling isometric strength on the mats than it would be just doing traditional bench press. And
I tell you, Carrie would be a lot happier having that canoe turned into a ship.
you're lucky she's not here, man. That would have backfired on you.
No, for sure.
She would have gone.
That Titanic's
I
been
know,
plunging.
dude.
Oh,
and I would,
jeez.
and I'd been like, oh no.
Yeah, she would have started talking about that submarine and everything. It would have been brutal.
Or whatever metaphor she wanted to use, it make us all cringe.
And blush.
Hey, so, but that's kind of what I've been playing with here. And I think by doing that stabilization, that hit to the nervous system is huge because you're incorporating with every pushing movement, my whole body is incorporated into it. And that's really what we're doing in grappling too, anyway.
Right. So, and you would specifically application wise, you would do this. It's literally more of a performance thing. It's not, you're not going to build muscle and like if someone is just going for composition, like they just want to look better, this isn't probably the direction you would go.
I don't know, man. Well, so I think it's definitely strength biased, but if you build up to an extent, I mean, if you keep building up your stabilization system, you can still get into go to failure with it. You can get there. And the cool thing about bands is you can move just a couple inches forward or backwards to lighten or heavy the load, like on the fly instantly. And this, when you see the bands, you'll see these are, I think these have been slept on. This Anchor Point training bands. Yeah. The guy that runs the place, Chris, is a really thoughtful person, has come up with a whole system on training with these things. And I think I want to ping him on this to kind of see what he thinks about the application that what we're doing with them. But I think for a heavy duty,
is there stuff to do for the legs?
So, yeah. And so I have think about what we're doing though.
Right. Because you have to root in. And,
oh yeah. Can you imagine doing like a staggered stance and you're doing a max set where you barely can push out because you're getting pushed backwards the whole time?
Right.
So when I'm in tall kneeling, I have my toes anchored into the ground, almost like I'm sitting, kneeling in guard. And my legs are just.
Well, you had me do this one where I was standing sideways.
I had to do a pull-off press.
Pull-off?
Yeah.
And it was like I had to rotate.
You were perpendicular to the line of force. And so then as you brought the handle out from close to your body to press out away from you, you've just increased the lever arm. It's almost like to try to turn you further.
Yeah, and it was don't twist, don't lean. Right. Try to maintain. It's almost like you're presenting your weapon, like
that's exactly right. But you're perpendicular to the line of force, right? So then it's trying to rotate you even further.
It was brutal.
Well, this type of thing, I think, is I think a lot of grapplers may want to look into, at least for. I'm not saying do what you want to do, but I'm not saying you can't get really strong doing the traditional stuff either. But I think with what I like about this is by making your body stabilize everything, your joints are inherently more stable as opposed to laying on a bench and having this huge weight come down and crush you, and your shoulders are an ungodly amount of stress on them. Yeah, without anything else really stabilizing. But you were asked about the legs, So not only from the isometric contraction to hold whatever position. I mean, imagine sitting in a horse stance doing this.
Yeah.
You know, which is like a wide squat position. You know, the classic kung fu horse stance.
Right.
Yeah. That's brutal. But what I've also done using these same bands is we have these little cuffs that we wrap around our ankles that have a little D-ring in them, and we attach the bands to our ankles.
Yeah.
And I'll scoot back away from the anchor point, and I'll bridge. Then I'll do like I'll pull my knee into my chest using my hip flexors. Man, let me tell you.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
It's a small footprint too, as in
Total small front, because all you need is a place to, like a little runway area in front of them to kind of stretch out the bands. But when they're stored, I mean, basically I have a bunch of stringers bolted into my studs in the garage, and I have some anchors in there, and I just have carabiners and I just clip them in.
If you had two pieces of equipment, now maybe these are going to be high on the list because right now you're really into them, but two pieces of equipment that you can have any others, what would be in your apartment?
You mean for me or for just general fitness?
Let's say you first.
Me, probably one of these band setups, and probably like a glute ham developer bench.
A glute ham?
Yeah, something that I can do like Nordic curls from, and I can do the
thing that you like bent over and like you do curls, like that sort of stuff.
Yeah, something like that for the. But for general fitness, for the longest time, especially we live in apartments, like kettlebell and a pull-up bar. That's legit, man.
Yeah,
because you can hang rings from it, and or a pull-up bar with rings.
Yeah,
I mean that would be great too. It depends on who you are. Just starting out, I've had people just start out with a suspension trainer.
Right,
have never strength trained before in their life. But I mean, you know, the minimalist, you don't need a whole bunch of equipment. I've gotten away from. Because I'm not a power lifter.
Yeah.
Carrie did some powerlifting in the past, but you know we've gotten rid of a lot of that stuff.
Liv, what about you?
What was the question?
What if you had two pieces of workout equipment? What would it be?
Come back to me.
Okay. I would pick. I mean, it's not three, but it's rings. Now, obviously, you can hang it from one of those $35 pull-up bars that you put in the doorway.
I would not recommend it.
That's what I do.
Yeah,
because it'll break.
No, I just you gotta be.
That's literally what I do.
You gotta be careful the angle that those rings get at. If it's straight up and down, you're probably okay. But if you kind of get them out at an angle away from the anchor point, if you have that cantilever type of pull-up bar, I've seen those fail. So
I would think you'd want to do it if they are going to go at an angle. There's one way that would actually,
there is,
and then there's one that would make it worse.
When you let up or something like, I've seen it get squirrely.
Okay,
yeah. So,
well, good to know. If I come back injured, your fault.
That's all right. But
and then I would say a belt squatter.
I have one.
Yeah, we just got one a month or two ago.
I think for this a larger footprint.
Yes.
But I tell you, as far as translating into activities of daily living as you age, losing a squat is probably the worst thing that can happen to people.
And the versatility on these things,
it's pretty
damn good. If you get one
good.
with different grip attachments.
Did you get similar to what I'm?
It's almost the exact same, I think, right?
It's not the exact same, but
I mean the mechanism.
I have belt. I have one on mine. You can put the band on them too, like the West Side barbell approach.
I think you can on this too. And then yes, and then but it has you have your belt squat, and then you can take off the belt and then put on like a straight bar and then a V bar and
I love it, man.
Single rows.
That's a great piece of equipment. I like the belt squat in general. Now, if you're a power lifter, of course, that's your sport. You got to do your back squat.
Yeah.
But I think taking that axial load off the spine, that compression on the spine is a really good idea because then it's around your hips.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, we have a power rack and everything. It's apart right now because we had to move it, but I don't know if we'll put that thing back up.
Exactly. Right.
From between the pull-up bar rings and this belt squat machine.
I tell you, I'm going to sell you on these bands, man.
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe the rack would support the bands.
It can, but I mean, it's better just have a little anchor thing you're mounting into a wall.
So your studs on your wall.
Yeah. You can mount them there. It's super rock solid.
Did you show on the video how yours is? Because
I did.
I think that's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
For an apartment person, that might not work. But
no, but you can figure some
if
stuff
you got
out.
a garage or your house or something.
Yeah, I'm digging that stuff.
Liv, do you think about it?
Quite a bit.
Yeah, 2 pieces of equipment.
2 pieces of equipment.
I mean, I really like the belt squat.
Mm-hmm.
But if I couldn't have that, then I would probably do kettlebells and a barbell. Because the barbell, I could do hip thrusts, which you can't do with the other stuff. I mean, you could put a kettlebell, but you're not going to get enough weight. You have to get enough weight.
Mm-hmm. For a hip thrust, I can see that.
You can use like a chair.
I've gotten away from barbells in general, just because of the nature of the bar, and especially for bench pressing and stuff like that, where it puts your shoulder not at the best position. Yeah. People will argue that but every bench presser I've seen gets around my age, man, they're kind of jacked as far as their shoulders. And of course, someone will say, mine are fine, but whatever.
I was doing archer push-ups the other day. Those are hard.
Yep.
Why are they so hard?
Well, think about it. Describe the position. For people that don't understand what an archer push-up is.
Your arms are quite wide. Mm-hmm. Like, let's say you have a normal push-up is just outside your shoulders, close is like your elbows are to your ribs.
Where you want them.
And then archer is like twice your shoulder width, let's say.
I do a variation where
you're a little tighter.
No, I'll bring one arm in tight that I'm really trying to work, and I'll bring the other one out like an outrigger on a canoe.
Well, that's what this is the start, and then I.
Yeah. But you never push. I don't push with both at the same time.
No. Yeah. So this is just how I'm starting. Is my hands are maybe double your shoulder width, and then as you go down, you actually go down on one side.
That's right.
And it's almost
you're basically doing a one-arm push-up with a little support on the other hand.
Yeah, like my right shoulder, if I'm down and I'm leaning all the way to my right, my right shoulder's almost touching my hand.
Yep.
And then the left hand is it's extended and just kind of supporting.
Yep.
And then as I come up, I'm coming up the center, and then I go to the other.
You want to try something brutal? Try it on rings.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Just get in your bottom push-up position and just bring that sucker out, dude.
And then go up from there.
Try. You'll probably have to start with a bigger angle.
Yeah. Where the rings are higher.
Yeah, rings are higher.
Yeah.
It's tough, man.
Yeah, I did 3 sets of 12, and I was like dying.
I used to do rollouts like that too. You know, the wheel rollouts.
Yeah.
So I used to do rollouts instead of one wheel. I'd made 2 individual ones without a lawnmower tire. So each little handle had 2 wheels on them. And it's rolling out. So I'd roll one out, and I could roll one out to the side as you do your rollouts too.
I remember when those became popular when I was like 12 or something like that, and it looked like such BS.
The ab roller?
Yeah, like the ab rollers. But I know some of those had little like assistant bands on the way back.
Sure.
But then it was like once you realize the legit, like just a wheel and a bar going through it, you're like, oh no, this is a brutally good workout.
What I don't like about that is it puts your shoulders into internal rotation as you extend them. I like having 2 separate ones where you can kind of come out more neutral.
You can keep them locked in
a
good
little
spot.
locked in. Yeah, a little bit better. So you're not getting so much internal work and adduction.
Because if you have a single and it's that single wheel, it's just too narrow.
Well, yeah, and you're getting your shoulder adducted, and you're getting a little bit of internal rotation.
So when you're at extension, it can be
it can be a little rough on the shoulders.
That makes sense.
I mean, that's just a little nitpicky stuff.
Yeah.
What other equipment do you guys like?
Man, kettlebells.
Kettlebells.
I've really got into.
I like having a box though, or
that's what I was going to say.
Usually for step ups, or I like a Bulgarian split squat. I know people hate them. I like them a lot.
We have a little. I do Bulgarians too. We're doing a lot of the knees over toes stuff too. Kind of that ATG split squat, which I like quite a bit too. Bulgarians are nice, or whatever. If you want to call it rear foot elevated split squat, it's the same thing. Those are legit. I really like those for a lot of reasons, especially if you can get down deep into, because it helps that rectus femoris length on the trailing foot.
I don't know what that is.
The rectus femoris is that other hip flexor that goes from the knee. It's one of the quad muscles, but this one passes the hip joint as well. So one, when we do the wall stretch or the couch stretch, that's the rectus femoris.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so the rear foot elevated split squat gets a little bit of that action going too.
Interesting.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd say those are like, I mean, obviously I'm not a huge lifter, but the kettlebells, I think they're just so versatile.
I feel like if I had any equipment that I could only pick one, I would definitely pick kettlebells.
Yeah.
I love them too. I tell you though, I'll get you guys hooked on this band stuff. Doing like the functional range systems, end range strengthening stuff, man.
I mean, a lot of that's just body weight too.
I know.
Like a little band where
it's great.
Like it's crazy.
Yeah. So we're what I think I'm gonna do is because Carrie and I hit that every Sunday. I think we're just gonna do video like here's another exercise we do.
Yeah.
Just to kind of put up some stuff where people can try. Yeah. Play around with.
So this is just the bands are just for working stabilizer muscles.
It's overall strength, but that's
strength, but working your base to be able to stabilize your pushing and pulling.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yep.
With that, we did have a pretty lengthy question come in, a newer listener that call him Billy Bob. And
is that what he?
It's kind of.
Okay.
Kind of his name.
Is it?
It's half of his name.
Okay, you're just keeping his name out of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
He knows who he is. But he's about to be 35.
Mm-hmm.
And he has, I read you this email a little bit before. It's
a really good questions.
Yeah, there's a few in there.
Mm-hmm.
He's already a blue belt. He's also a full-time firefighter.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure we'll touch on that in a second. They try to train 3 days a week, sometimes 4, but he knows he's getting older and it's harder to keep up. He's looked into TRT, and he feels like he kind of checks all the boxes on symptoms.
As far as
for low testosterone.
Like, what is he?
He didn't
elaborate.
He just feels
okay.
Yeah. He says, I feel like I check off a lot of the dots when it comes to my symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't get specific on that though. He's looked at companies like Core Medical in the past. I'm not sure if you've heard of that, but
I'm assuming they're like a telemedicine type of.
It's some sort of testosterone clinic.
Testosterone online clinic or something.
Because he does have a friend that has been using them and quotes $300 to $500 for a 3-month supply.
That just pisses me off every time I hear about that.
We have talked about this. He asked if there's a couple episodes. We do have a testosterone episode. And then where I'm pretty open and you're open about both of our TRT usage and frequency and all that kind of stuff. And then Carrie deep dives on the hormone side. And I think it was either the last episode or the one before we talked about where we get our testosterone, which we'll touch on in a second. But yeah, 3-month supply for $300 to $500. That's expensive. That starts getting up there.
Ridiculous.
For sure. And we've even heard of more than that, right? We've heard of $500 a month.
Well, I don't even get. That's just unethical.
Yeah. So a couple things is what do you think so far? 1, where do we get it? 2, touch on the firefighter thing.
That's what I want to start first. Okay, 35 years old. Some people will say, hey, that's pretty early for TRT. Mm-hmm. Okay, anymore, a trend I've been seeing and what Carrie's been seeing, because she does this in her clinic, is younger people having legitimate low testosterone. Mm-hmm. There's probably a lot of environmental reasons for that, whether it's environmental estrogens, like microplastics and things like that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, real quick, Chris. Yeah. What would be considered low testosterone?
So
what's kind of the range?
That's a great question. you'll see these ranges, these normal ranges. And, it depends on what lab you're using. I've seen them from like 200 to 1200, a huge range. Okay, is so quote unquote normal.
200.
I've seen that on a lab. Yeah, I know.
For anybody that's been in the 200s or lower, like I have, it's like,
well, me too.
Yeah. It's
the system's broken. Okay,
yeah.
So
yeah, we won't rant on that.
Yeah. So what Carrie has always said is, obviously, when you need, first of all, find a doctor that will do this for you. Someone like Carrie. I don't know where this person lives.
Yeah, we're not sure. They actually asked if you or Carrie do what you call remote patients.
I do not. Carrie does, but you have to live in Washington State.
Yeah.
It's a licensure thing.
Yeah. It's just that's where the medical license is. So there's a telemedicine. There's even some requirements within that. But
Carrie, there is. Carrie always has someone. You need to see the person in the clinic at least once. Mm-hmm. So because there's a lot to this, it's not just the problem with this kind of cookie cutter medicine. Oh, here's your test results. Here's your testosterone. You might be missing a whole bunch of stuff going on. Having someone like Carrie who really does, if you've been to her as a patient, what the paperwork you got to fill out, the questionnaires, is pretty extensive.
Yeah, she's not going to be someone that just, I'm not saying Billy Bob's asking for this.
No.
But she's not going to just be, a little low, here's your script. It's like she's
comprehensive.
Yeah, holistic and like she's going to try to figure out why.
Exactly.
A lot of these clinics don't give a shit.
Well, and I have some ideas for one.
Yeah.
Okay. Doing jiu-jitsu and a full-time firefighter. Just the circadian rhythm disruption of being a firefighter. In other words, with the schedule.
Yeah.
The stress of the job, especially depending on where he works. I mean, it depends. I mean, some of them.
Stress Cup episode would be great.
Yeah, if you look, check that out. But just that sleep that I'm assuming, and a lot of firefighters do the best they can with it, but it's still a huge hit to the system.
Yeah.
And I can tell you my deployments in the military and just being in that lifestyle in the military, I think wrecked me, and I waited way too long. I waited till I was 45. Yeah. And I was basically just, it was really bad. But you need to find someone that's going to do not just testosterone levels, get you a full hormone workup, because there's more than just testosterone. If you go listen to Carrie's, our episode with Carrie on here, it's really good. She talks about a lot of that stuff. And then she will will write a prescription to a compounding pharmacy. She happens to use one in Arizona quite frequently. There's others. There's all kinds of them around. That she likes the customer service, Vertesis down in Arizona. Yeah. And she'll put a prescription. And my own doctor, who is a friend of ours too, who's my personal physician, she uses the same pharmacy for me. I don't know about you, Bill, but I just got mine filled about 3 weeks ago for 3 months supply. It's like $69.
Yeah, I think it's right there.
And that was with like syringes. And,
yeah. Oh yeah, with more than enough syringes.
And Carrie teaches you how to inject it, the whole 9 yards. So she's not charging you to come in and do all that nonsense. Like some of these clinics are like having people come in to inject them, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I get like for someone like myself, I've never like dabble with needles really at all.
No, of course not.
And it was kind of scary. Like at first, I'm worried, am I going to like shoot it into a vein and die?
She'll show you exactly the spots to do it and different approaches to that. So, and it's a whole thing, man. It's like, how much, how often, and it's all, the biggest thing is, yes, like I'm using her as an example because, she'll follow up and she'll check your testosterone levels, right? But she's also going to ask how are you feeling? Because she's not going to, because many of my colleagues will be like, oh, you're normal.
Yeah.
Okay. All the conferences she's gone to, who are kind of the leaders in this field internationally, talk about titrating to people when they feel good. Okay. and it's different for everyone. Some people are fine at 500. I find I'm like in the sweet spot around 800.
We have a good friend that is in the 500s. He works 2 jobs, has tons of energy.
Yeah.
Does great. Like he's doing he's 40. And yeah, he's doing just great. And then the only thing he was worried about was that it's hard for him to gain muscle.
Well,
but that's just one little
thing.
But me at 500, which is around where he's at, I know I feel
because there's more to total testosterone. There's more to it than that. There's the 6 hormone binding globulin. It's how much free testosterone you have. Right. By the way, do you have an excessive amount of fat tissue, which also will upregulate the enzyme aromatase, which converts testosterone to estrogen.
Which he talks about. He's 5'10", about 225, 230. Mm-hmm. He knows he's overweight. Mm-hmm. And he, like most of us dudes, we carry our weight in our belly, our midsection.
That inflammation can impact the ability to utilize free testosterone as well too. So there's some things, and that's why if you go to someone like Carrie, she's going to say, okay, let's look at what are you doing nutrition wise? And it's not just what you're eating, it's when you're eating too, as we well know. Mm-hmm. That nutrient timing thing, because I think later in his question, he talked about he's done the low carb thing in the past. It wasn't sustainable for him, right?
Yeah, he said he's done well with low carb, high protein in the past. Yeah. That's when he got his best results, but that was about 11 years ago.
Right.
And he also, he listens to the Huberman podcast, and they've talked about some supplements like the Tonka Ali, krill, and
you're kind of,
like
unless the other stuff is, unless the we got a sleep thing going on, and we got being overweight too.
Yeah.
That other stuff, it might be fine. It might help a little bit, but it's kind of pissing in the wind a little bit.
Right.
Where that, like, going back to the nutrition, I usually get people that do well on low carb. I talk them into doing a cyclic low carb, where we're doing low carb except for after training. And then we'll get a good carb hit. Yeah. That is so much more sustainable. Plus, it keeps your performance up.
Especially for a guy with this kind of a schedule.
Totally.
I would relate that to like myself, where I train a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's training a lot. It's not just jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
If however many calls they're getting and all that kind of stuff.
And he has a big thing going against him that he can't do anything about, which is that circadian disruption. So everything else has to be dialed in sharp.
Yeah, he's going to need those carbs at certain times
after training, for sure. Yeah. Because if you don't do that and you're going to crash and burn, and your body's going to start doing a cortisol response.
His energy, stress. I guarantee, if he's stay low carb until after, he says he's training 3 days a week, typically, sometimes 4. After those training days, go get after it.
Protein and starch, man. Whatever you like. Exactly.
Delicious. It'll satiate you. You'll in the next day, the energy is much better,
and you'll stop getting that kind of that long-term ultra low carb thing. Can have some metabolic consequences too over time. People start slowing down their weight loss. They start getting a little. I'm not now. It's different for everyone, but I can just tell you my experience. I've been doing it for probably 20 years.
And
it's helped.
So. Let's say he's not in Washington.
Okay.
How would this guy find?
It depends on where he is, man. Some states are better than others. Like he's in Arizona. Oh, absolutely. He can find someone.
Search like integrative medicine.
Integrative medicine, someone that will do, but you got to be careful with integrative medicine. And I'm not bashing on chiropractors, but some of them like to use that as far as their, and it's not really.
Functional medicine?
Usually functional medicine will get into this pretty well.
I mean, with the people that are chiropractors that use the integrative medicine,
well, they can't prescribe medications, and
they're not going to be going down the TRT route.
Well, they can't.
Yeah. So, make that part of the research. Make sure they offer that.
You need like a nurse practitioner, an MD, a DO, or an ND, a naturopath, like Carrie. And it's just a degree. It's just been what they focus on. I know people of all, nurse practitioners, NDs, MDs, DOs that have it's their practice philosophy that matters.
Yeah.
Because you can have any of the, most of those that are just doing BS, right?
Yeah.
So look around for someone that's really good, because the problem is, I've had some of my colleagues say that, I don't believe in hormone replacement, and I just want to slap them.
Right.
Like,
well, that's why I'm wondering what he would Google in whatever state.
If he can get back to us and,
let us
know what state he's in, at least,
Yeah.
I might be able to kind of steer him in a better direction. We can offline even say, hey, try some of these folks.
Yeah.
But it's a real problem, man.
Yeah.
Because then people are turning to these testosterone mills, is what I call them, basically, and those can be problematic as well.
Yeah, and the whole compounding pharmacy where we get it cheaper than what this clinic that he has talked to, that's going to come from the doctor you use.
Yeah,
they're going to send the prescription to them. So
yeah, yes, yeah, exactly. So and there's other compound that just happens to be the ones that we get ours from, but there's others that are very comparable. I think there's a great place in Florida too. There's a couple that Carrie's used. She uses them all over the country.
Yeah,
depending on what it is, right?
Yeah. So a couple things for him is get back to us, let us know where you're at, so then maybe we can help with figuring out a place. But there's some info on whether it's integrative medicine with an ND or MD, basically that helps them be a little bit more legit and they can prescribe. You got to vet their mentality. Right, that's going to be part of it. Read up on them if they got social media or whatever.
Yep.
Be a little bit creepy and try to figure out what their thought process is.
Totally.
Functional medicine is another kind of key term you can Google in there. And then,
be careful. Sometimes some functional medicine practitioners get super crazy with the lab work. And they'll try to justify it too. That's
overlap, yeah.
We got to get
I know someone.
Then you get $3,000 worth of lab work, and that's just preposterous too. I don't agree with that either.
Yeah.
So
I know someone who went to a functional doctor, got $4,000 worth of lab work, and now their insurance won't cover any of it.
Of course not. And what Carrie always says is she only orders labs that are going to change her management, right? And not this, so she's really taking some good stuff out of the functional medicine groups, the integrative medicine folks, traditional medicine. I mean, a lot of the conferences she goes to is just kind of leaders in the field and different things like hormones and all this. One of the best guys in the world for male hormones is a Belgian doctor, So, I mean...
some things some speed bumps to definitely kind of worry about.
It's unfortunately navigating modern medicine is really problematic anymore. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to hear back from them. Then hopefully we can kind of give an update but some nutritional things to definitely tighten up. You don't have to eat like a squirrel. It's just eating at the right times.
Feed your activity.
Yeah, the appropriate foods. And I think this guy's been around a little bit, so he probably knows what some of those are. So
and just maybe the thing with him is maybe consider shifting your carbs, a carb refeed till after your jiu-jitsu training.
Yeah,
perfect.
Right, and then if you're in the firehouse for a couple days straight, just try to keep the carb intake pretty low.
Yep, I agree with everything. I like it.
That's all we got. That's it. Like, subscribe,
sounds
ask
good.
questions. Sorry for the bad jokes. See y'all.
No, you're not.